All right. Let's go back to the Biafran War memories. I think I'm calling it wrong. Memories. What is the interview that you don't forget that you conducted in that series? How many interviews do you know?
So far, it should be about, some haven't been published, but it's more than 100 and it's still ongoing. I interviewed an Indian woman last year who she was living in the northern part of Nigeria and also the south. So that's going to be published. I interviewed Philip Effiong Jr., who was on your show. I really liked Igwe Christopher Ejiofor, the ADC, Ojuku's ADC. I really liked that interview. And I met him in his community here in Enugu, Eziagu. He was on his throne because obviously he has a title in his community. So I think what I liked about his interview was that he was very clear. I mean, being right there in the political situation of the Biafra movement, he knew the inside of what was happening. You know, he knew all of the diplomatic moves that the Biafrans were making to, for example, get recognition. So I liked that. He gave inside information into the political maneuverings that were happening. Many people talk about, you know, the camps, the Caritas, the humanitarian relief, but this guy just gave that political insight that I really appreciated. So his I really liked. Another one that really touched me, because in my Biafran War Memories, I talked to all sides. And I talked to some of these Irish humanitarians. I've spoken to journalists who covered. I've spoken to, of course, Biafrans. I've spoken to Nigerian military personnel. One Nigerian military personnel I interviewed from Plateau State, he broke down and cried, talked about how he lost his brother on the battlefield. That was very moving, you know, because he was almost embarrassed that he started crying. You know, he lost composure, then he tried to gather himself. And that's one thing I try to do. These are very long conversations. Sometimes it'll go 4 or 5 hours. And I just let them speak. I let them speak. So this is a very personal project for me. And I'd like to even talk about the origin of this project. My parents never spoke about the war, which is the story that many of us had. Our parents never told us. It wasn't until I was about 18 in the US, my mother mentioned, we were watching the news. It was like the Middle East, the famine. And my mother said that she used to be a refugee one time. So we're watching the news, looking at refugees. And my mother said, oh, I used to be a refugee. And I said, what? It's so bizarre. How is my mom? Refugees, I'm thinking Ethiopia, Syria. My mother was a refugee. And I was just absolutely floored. She had never told me this. So that's what started this trail for me to know what, you know, so I went to my village, mother's side, my mother's side and father's side, talked to people on the ground. I'm still doing it. You've introduced me to some people, Rudolf in New York. This is something I'm deeply passionate about and my inspiration really is looking at how the Jewish people have documented what they lost during the Holocaust. They take that story so seriously. It's a sacred story. This is what we lost. And they do so much documentation. That's what I'm doing with Biafra War Memories. These stories, they cannot be lost. You know, we have to put this together. And I like the fact that it's normal people talking about what happened. I'm not just looking at the Obasanjo, stuff like this. It's the everyday people. You know, that war didn't just affect southeastern Nigeria. It affected the entire Africa as far as I'm concerned. That's one of the most, that thing was a milestone. That war is part of world history. And that's what I want people to understand. It's not just Nigerian history. This is world history. And this is why museums have come to me asking to put some of that information in their museums.